Teenage mutants looking for trouble, Steve spread out the Village Voice until its ridiculously large newsprint nearly covered the kitchen table. And then he seized upon what he was looking for, the cramps. They're good. Are they fast? I didn't know much about punk rock, but I knew that it was supposed to be fast. No. Well, not exactly a poet, at least Steve got to the point. No? He shrugged off my protest. No, but you're going to like them. Are they heavy? What I liked about bands like Black Flag was that they chugged along with the riff-laden thump, 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 much like my much-beloved Black Sabbath. Again, Steve said no. And again, I said no? And here I was thinking the hardcore was always at least a little bit, heavy. So I was confused and feeling the onset of disappointment. No, the Cramps aren't hardcore. They're not even punk, but you're going to love them. Partially incredulous and partially curious, I playfully challenged, oh, really? Yes, really. Steve was all business. The ad reads doors at 8 and it's already 7:45. It says the Peppermint Lounge, 15th Street and 5th Avenue. Walking over to the living room, I grabbed my wallet off the coffee table and shot my reply back into the kitchen. We could take the F train to 14th Street. I'll go tell my grandma. Pulling on my bomber jacket over my sweatshirt, I walked across the hall to my great-aunt's apartment as my grandma was there watching television with her sister and my great-uncle. We're going out now. No? So where you going? You need to stay out of Alphabet Soup. She meant Alphabet City, the nickname for the lettered avenues directly north of her apartment. Avenues A through D, all of them notorious for drugs, violence, and general dereliction. Nah, we're going to 5th Avenue. My great-uncle found this funny. Look at him, Mr. 5th Avenue. Soon he'll be too fancy for us. Grandma, now a bit amused, threw some shade at me without even turning her eyes from the Wheel of Fortune. What will you be doing on 5th Avenue dressed like that? All three found me a little ridiculous. We're going to see a band. I bent over to kiss my grandma on the top of her head. Listen, Grandma, we're already running late. Gotta go. I walked over to my great aunt, also seemingly mesmerized by the flashing images. She then presented her cheek to me for a kiss. Having notified them of my itinerary, I was then free to leave. Steve and I hightailed it over to the East Broadway F station, submerging down 2 flights of stairs to the subway platform. The walls of the station oozed with black slime, and the sound of the slime dripping down like stalactites reverbed steadily throughout the empty station as if we were in some primordial cave. Between the drips, the chirping and squealing of rats scurrying across the tracks and into a garbage can occasionally interrupt the steady beat of the slime. Rats instinctively know how to avoid the third rail, however much they may play in its shadow. Arriving a short while later at the Peppermint Lounge, we paid the cover and walked down its stairs to the event level, tucked as it was beneath its own lobby and seemingly running underneath 5th Avenue. The sound of punk rock, the smells of clove cigarettes, booze, and hair goo prepared us for the visuals, leather jackets, spikes, and spiky hair. The bar was lively, like that scene in Star Wars with all the funky aliens. Patrons looked like they had more backstory than they probably did. We ordered whiskey sodas, which are miserable drinks, but strong and basic. No stranger to alcohol, this was one of the first times I'd ever been served in a bar. The first band had a saxophonist. I liked them, but as the New York metro area felt ridiculously saturated in the sentimental sounds of the sax, I kept thinking about Fear's song, New York's All Right If You Like Saxophones. I don't recall who they were, and I still need to investigate. Afterwards, there was an intermission, pooling our resources, a few crumpled bills, and yes, some change. We had enough for one more drink, which Steve and I shared. It was not enough to get lit, but it was just enough to get me out of my skin. Drinking in bars is expensive, especially when you're a teenager. Finally, the lights went on and off, and on again, and then off, and we drifted towards center stage. The sound of a gong, yes, a gong, was followed by an intro. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cramps. The Cramps may not have been DRI, but they definitely did shred in their own way, and the crowd swayed and throbbed under the pulse of the most exalted potentate of love. The vibe was sleazy and weird, like Martians showing up and wanted to laugh and party. And if it was sexy, it was Martian sexy, more of an absurdity than anything else. The lights behind the band shifted between blue, green, and purple, and Lux, wearing matching tight black sweater and leotards, seemingly melded into a bodysuit, danced with his arms outstretched, the silhouette of his motions looking like he had 1,000 arms, like the Hindu god Shiva. Lux's interior, Ivy Rorschach and the drummer Nick Knox all looked creepy cool, like escapees from a late 50s B-movie, but the second guitarist, whom I later came to befriend, Kid Congo, was a major mystery. For one, he wore a leather skirt, and he wore it well, but he didn't quite look like a woman. Kid would later correct me decades later, telling me that it was like a skirt, but not really a skirt. Whatever. It was a total gender fuck, that's what it was. Such things had the shock of the new in 1982. Kid was looking alarmingly cute, actually, and I pondered what might be behind that skirt, or whatever it was. The churning audience responding to the music began to push me around. My heavy metal mullet, aviator glasses, bomber jacket, and work boots shouted that I was a total hayseed, a newbie, a square. A lone slam dancer skanking to the beat in the center of the dance floor absent-mindedly menaced anyone who would dare come within arm's length of his spike-encrusted leather armbands. Pretending that he didn't see me, he was all too happy to hit or rip me, and I did my best to resist those who would nudge me into his orbit. Another fellow, around his size, or maybe a tad beefier, was in fact drawn into his space and hit him back with intent. The crowd briefly turned to witness the standoff. I recall some shoving and the slam dancer protesting, "I'm only dancing. If you don't like it, get away." Just then the Cramps, who were playing their song Under the Wires, paused, and everyone turned their attention back to the band. Lux then posed one of life's perennial questions. "What color are your panties? How long have you been wearing them?" At that, the band kicked back into gear and the looming confrontation vanished. At the end of the song, a member of the audience teased Lux in the childish and fully audible sing-song, "Lux has a hard-on." All eyes were glued into Lux's black leotards looking for a bulge, whose contours I may have vaguely made out in the stage light. Without hesitation, Lux answered back, "I always have a hard-on." And with that, the band leaned into their song Voodoo Idol, infusing it with their signature sleazy Frankenstein stomp. A switch, a lever controlling some massive conjuncture in my life had been pulled, and from that moment on, my life would never be the same. I was hooked, like a junkie, and I've been searching for that buzz ever since. Thank you.